The lesson topic for this video is applications of quadratics, again, and this is part 4. Now I only have one example for you on this video lesson, and I wanted enough space for it, so it is on the next screen. So we'll go ahead and do that example. Okay, so like usual, I do suggest that you pause the video and write down the actual question so that you can refer back to it and use your notes to help you study for the test and the final. All right, so the first, the directions or the information says, for the period from 1971 to 2001, the number y of films produced in the world can be modeled by the function y equals 10x squared minus 94x plus 3,900, where x is the number of years since 1971. Now before I get into the questions, and we've talked about this in a previous lesson, we want to definitely understand what our variables x and y represent in this situation. So it says up here that y is the number of films produced in the world. All right? So the number of films produced in the world. And I'll just write number of films. Okay? All right. What is x? Well, x is the number of years, so it's years, since 1971. And it's important that we include that part. So years since 1971. So how many years have gone by since 1971? That's our variable x. So the first question says, how many films were produced in 1985? Well, again, we are solving these word problems with our graphing calculator. So go ahead and grab your graphing calculator and let's put this in for y1. Now, if you put that in your calculator and you graph it with a standard window, you will see absolutely nothing on the x and y, on the coordinate plane, okay? So we absolutely need to change or fix our window. So let's think for a little bit about what our x min, x max, y min, and y max should be for this problem. Well, let's think about what x represents. Okay, x represents the years since 1971. So how many years have gone by since 1971? Well, notice we have to get at least up to 2001 because that's how many years we're going here, 1971 till 2001. That is a 30-year span. So we know we have a 30-year span for the number of years since 1971. So I want my x minimum. I always like to have at least a little bit to the left of the y-axis, so I'm just going to keep this at, let's say, -5. But my x maximum, I need to be at least at 30 so I can see the whole curve. I'm probably going to choose 40 just so I can see, again, a little bit more than just the curve. All right, how about y? The number of films. Sometimes that's hard to kind of guess. Is it 8 films? Is it 7 million films? How many films have been created in this time span per year? Well, one way you can think about it is, what happens if no years have gone by since 1971? What if x was 0? Well, if I put a 0 in right here, and I put a 0 in right here, I'd get 0 minus 0 plus 3,900, which means I would get 3,900. So we actually need a very large value for y, because if it's been 0 years since 1971, we have 3,900 films. So I know I need to go higher than that on my y max. So again, I'm going to put, let's say, we can leave that at -10, that's fine. Our y maximum, I'm going to put 5,000 at first, because I know we're going to need to be at this value or higher for the number of films. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and let's just figure this works for now, and we'll change it if we need to. So here's our curve. At one point, at 0 years have gone by, we're at 3,900. We know that because we plugged 0 in here and here, and we're at 3,900. It looks like the number of films actually dipped in the first few years and then started to increase after that. So let's see if that'll help us with our questions. How many films were produced in 1985? All right, well, let's think about whether we know x or y. Well, we're trying to find out how many films were produced. So that's number of films, that's y. So this is what we're trying to find. How many films were produced? So this right here for X is going to be the number of years. Now watch out, because don't put 1985 here. Again, X is the number of years since 1971. So how many years have gone by since 1971 to get to 1985? Well, the answer is 14. So 14 years have gone by since 1971 to get to 1985. So we need to find y when we know x is 14. So when x is 14, what's our y value? So we're going to go ahead and use trace and 14 for our x value, and we find out that there were 4,544 films produced in 1985. And we can put a label on that, probably would be better to say films or something. All right. In what year was the minimum number of films produced? Well, we know that value is right here, right? We know that's the minimum value. Well, how do we find the minimum value or the minimum number of films? Oh, no, let's go back to the question, sorry. In what year was the minimum number of films? Okay, so are we trying to find X or Y? In what year? Well, we need to think about how many years have gone by. So we're trying to find X here for the minimum. So we're going to go ahead and hit F5 on a Casio or second calculate on a TI and go to minimum and do the work you need there to find your value. Now what you're going to get is you're going to get x equals 4.7 right here, and then y equals 3,679.1 right here for x and y for that minimum. So in what year did that happen? Well, it happened 4.7 years after 1971. So we add 4.7 years to 1971 and we get 1975. Okay, now it's sometime during 1975. Don't worry about that 0.7, it just asks what year. So we add 4 years onto this and we know we're somewhere during that 1975 range. Next, what is the smallest number of films produced in this range of years? Well, we know the smallest number of films is our y value of this same low point. That's our minimum. So we know it's this number of films. So 3,679.1, which is kind of strange. I don't know why there'd be a 0.1 number of films, but this is our answer for y, the number of films produced, the smallest number of films produced in that range. Lastly, in what year were 4,200 films produced? Again, if you think about x and y, it says in what year. So we're trying to find x to find out what year, and we know that y is the total number of films produced, so we're going to use 4,200. What that means is we're going to go to our calculator and go to y equals and go to y2 and type in 4,200 and graph it. What you're going to see is a line going through right around here, and the first point that they intersect is over here, which is a negative number of years, so that's not going to be our answer. The second place they intersect is right here, so we're going to go ahead and find our intersection for that location, and we get 11.917, which means in what year did that happen? Well, 1971 plus about 12 years, so we could estimate that to be just prior to 1959. So technically, I guess it was 1958, just very, very close to 1959. All right, more practice in class.